All right, welcome everyone. Today we're going to talk about how to build para. This will work individually and it'll work really well for a team also. Now, there's a lot out there about complicated ways to do things. Now, just a quick primer on the approach is Notion is an awesome tool and it's also a bottomless pit and potentially a huge distraction, as you may already know if you're here. And figuring out how to use Notion is also a bit of a challenge. Now, in the last 6 or so months, they've come a huge way in making a lot of the workflows work together, whereas before that, to me, it really felt like you could either use databases or pages, but it was almost two separate apps, and the play between the two was poor, so you were stuck with one. Each one has advantages and disadvantages, and so I found what I believe is a really balanced system that's also going to follow the para principles with a little bit of modification. And it's also going to really build on the idea that notes are these modular things that don't necessarily need to be in one place. They're the information that ties everything together. So with that, we'll just jump in because it's going to start to get abstract. And what we're going to do first is build out our projects and areas. Those are each going to be a database. And then we're also going to build out resources, and then we'll build out a notes section as well. So the setup's going to be pretty straightforward. We're going to use a lot of concepts from Rome in terms of interconnecting things, but without turning it into the kind of Wild West, and while still creating a really strong, not exactly hierarchy, but navigation, so that it's easy to find and access things and easy to make new notes. If that sounds good to you, let's get started. So this is going to be our projects database. And so we're going to turn it just straight away into, we could do a table, we could do a board. I'm going to start with table only because it really illustrates what's happening, but otherwise you could go straight to board or any other view you like. So let's take a look at new database here. Okay, and then we have very little. So I'm going to get rid of tags because I don't usually use that for projects. So we have the name. Now, the first thing we're going to want is actually like a connection to an area, but we don't have that yet, so I'm going to wait on it. The next thing we're going to want is status as a way to track things. So I'll keep this really basic. I always add a testing/approval. This just tells me when something is ready to be delivered, and here purple's a good color for it. Okay, now we have that property over here, so that's cool. And what else are we going to add? We could, if we were working with multiple people, we could add, say, a person who is the owner. We could add a target date. I know a lot of people like to work with due dates. I don't. So target date at best is what I'm going to do. And so there we go. Target date, and we can format that however we want. Okay, so those are some basic things. Now, what I'm going to do is, really importantly, we're going to add something for projects. So you can add whatever you want. I like takeoff icons or the rocket launch because a project often is getting the thing started, and then often we have to maintain it or maintain flight afterwards. So then it becomes an area. So here we have the area, and I think I'm going to do this as a gallery, and I'll show you why afterwards. We're going to make a new database again. So it is called areas, and we can just delete all the stock stuff that they give us here. Delete, delete. Okay. From here, we want to add a relationship between projects and areas. The relationships are the thing that's going to make this a little bit Rome, and it's also going to make it work really well. So this is projects. We're going to link to areas. We're going to show it both ways. And actually, there's just one reason I'm going to wait on doing this first. I want to add an icon to areas because it's just going to make life a bit... For some reason, I like the tree icon, so I guess you could make projects into sprouts if you wanted to stick to the same metaphor. Moving along, so here, relation, areas, and you see now it's just going to give it to me with this icon, which I find is really visually helpful. That's why I went there and did that first. So we're going to show on both sides. We add it, and now we have... So actually, I really don't find table view as useful for most things, but I wanted a good visual of the properties we're adding. So now we can go ahead into our layout, and we can change it into a board, which is pretty appropriate for a project. And then the other thing we're going to want to do is, okay, I like to color the columns, but we're going to group by status. There we are. Now, sometimes you may need to go from sort ascending to manual just to order these in the order that you want. So again, I like to color the columns. You don't have to. And there we are. So then let's just go into our areas. And I'll do these at a more of a team level, but this can translate to personal as well. Areas, I'll do this. Okay, I'm gonna make up a name so it's less confusing. So this is gonna be ABC Corp. So we have, and client. Now, the reason I do the vertical line client is just because when you're doing a reference to this, if you have a project for ABC Corp, you have another thing ABC Corp, you're going to want to see that it's the client when you're trying to use it in a relational field like one of these. So that's going to come in handy. You can skip it now, but you may see later why you want it to do it. Okay, I noticed I never deleted tags, and you may know that you can just come to this view and edit properties from here as well. So there's a few ways to do that. All right, so I've got my area for ABC Corp. Now let's create a project. And by the way, one of the reasons I set it up like this is you can just go +, new project. Of course, if you actually go to the view, then you can create it inside of the status, and that's going to automatically apply the status, so it could be better. Now let's go one further. I like to see my projects not sorted, but rather grouped, or subgrouped in this case, by area. Okay, so right now it says there's no areas, but there actually is one. So what's happening? If we take a look in our subgroup, visible groups, so that is visible, hide empty is off, and so what is the problem that's happening here? Let's see, I'm just going to type something in here. Actually, no, I shouldn't even have to do that. Okay, so this is a little bit of a weird one, but here, let's go ahead and we're going to say here, the project, which we probably want to give like a name that defines the closing of the project, or automation between X and Y systems, because we actually do quite a bit of integration work. So I'm just going to go in here, and under areas, I'm just going to select ABC Corp, so I don't know why that was being stubborn. And now I still don't know why it's showing it. So what gives? So there we go. So now we have it, and we'll have every project we add. So if I add a new project in here, it's going to take the status not started, and it's going to automatically belong to ABC Corp. And we're going to say launch the next project. Let's say, I don't know, because we're making up project names here. So now when we go in, it's got the ABC Corp area, it's got a status already. So that's one of the nifty things about boards, is that you can assign two properties at once by clicking in the right place. So we're going to go to areas, and because I'm a little bit anal, we're going to just put a logo here for the ABC Corp. I like logos on everything. Okay, so that's projects and areas. Now, if you want to get complex, you can actually make parent areas and child areas. That's one thing that I've done in the past. And then you just could create like a relationship to area from within areas, and that would allow you to do child parent, but we won't get into that now. I'll just mention it's possible. Okay, so what's another property I like on my areas as a business is we could call it type, you could call it whatever you want. For this, I'll do single select, but you can easily change that in the future, which is nice. So here, this selection property is going to be type. There we are. And so the possible types are client. This could be an internal area. What else do we have? Client, internal. I guess those are fine for now. And so let's say this is obviously a client, right? So there we go, and then once again, we're just going to group this view by type. And so then we'll be able to easily see client, internal, and no type. Now, one trick, especially when working in teams, is put no type to the top, because if something's unsorted, you want to see it. Otherwise, it's going to just fade very quickly out of memory. So then here, internal, this is going to be create content about Notion for teams. Okay, no, that's obviously not an area, that's a project. Notion, I don't know, Notion leadership, Notion, whatever. Okay, Notion content. This isn't a great area name, but I don't want to waste your time thinking about one. We can add from here, for example, a project if we wanted. So I could start typing something like, create a video about how to set up para for teams. It's meta. So then I can go in here, and the status is going to be not started. Oh, this is actually worth mentioning. You can set now defaults. So I don't know if it's in here. Yeah, defaults. You can choose, and that's a really nice thing also for a lot of the properties now, if you don't select anything, what it should be. So I could default all of these to my ownership, for example. Now, because I said I was being anal and so on, I'm just going to Notion, because I also, there's no Notion icon, but I like to use this notebook. And here, I don't know, this is going to be make a video. That's like the 1Password icon there. Okay. Make a video. So once we've done this, here, let me pop into my projects just so you can see. I have this next row, Notion content. I can create a video about blah, blah, blah. We can see it. I'm able to create projects or areas from here, and I'm also able to create them from inside of the pages as I assign properties, which means a lot of the workflows are really resolving themselves here. Okay, so that's projects and areas. Next, we'll talk about notes and resources. If you'd like to learn more about setting up Notion, or if you'd like help, we're thrilled to do it. Subscribe, reach out, or drop a comment if you have questions. Thank you for watching.